RoH Part 1, Scene 5. At about the same time, the Cyril building. Hilla brushed the messy strands of black hair around her wife's sleeping face. Crennery sounded like she was breathing through a tiny straw half submerged in water, all bubbly and strained. She'd aged so much over the months of her illness. She was only 37, but now looked 20 years older. Sunlight flowed through the floor-to-ceiling windows on two sides and heated the wide room around them just nicely. Behind her, the three youngest rebel children filled the room with nearly constant laughter as they played Fly Me with young Tolan, who was a very strong kinetic, adding a mischievous undertone to the joyous laughter. The two eldest, Krenner's twin teenage boys, were huddled in the corner whispering and giggling, probably plotting their next practical joke on someone. It was nice to hear the innocent, and not so innocent, laughter of the children, because it took the edge off the aching pain all the adults were feeling. Sitting on the floor at Krenner's feet, Tolan's big sister, Amana, looked up over her book and gave Hilla a pained expression. Hilla swallowed and answered with a gentle smile. They all knew Krenner was dying, even before Ren had told them. It was just a matter of time now. A cold breath of air brushed past her, sending sharp prickles over her skin through the threadbare pants she wore. Someone murmured nearby, and she stepped around Krenner's cot towards the noise. Old Ren lay asleep on the floor with their back to the sunlit windows. Their face twitched as if she was dreaming. "Someone's at the door," grumbled Ren, still asleep. Next to them on the cot, with her words barely understandable between wheezes, Krenner spoke as well. "Hilla, get the door." Hilla stared at the two of them in surprised fear, and just for a moment she trembled in the grip of something cold and terrifying. Amana got to her feet. "What's going on?" Hilla looked at her, about to reply that she didn't know, but from the direction of the bathrooms there was a bang and someone swore. She tried to brush away the odd sensation in her extremities and shook her head. Making her way across the room towards the doors, she called out, "Are you okay in there, Bran?" The old man stepped into sight and frowned at her. "Hilla, something's going on. There's a woman coming to our door and she needs to talk to you." She blinked at him. What? "Someone's at the door. They're here to talk to you, and it's really important that you listen." The noise in their vast living room silenced, and the creepy feeling she'd had before settled into her toes and fingers. She shivered involuntarily. Who is she? What does she want? Is she here now?" "I don't know those things." He shook his head, scratching at his greying brown hair with one hand. "Just that there is a woman coming to talk to you, and what she has to say is important. The static wave was so strong it knocked me off the toilet." The image of grizzled old Bran falling off the seat flashed across her mind. She managed to suppress the laugh, but not the smile. He lifted one grey eyebrow at her, and a wordless apology arose from out of her smile. He sighed. "She'll be here soon, if she isn't already outside waiting. What do you want to do?" Turning to face the others, she quickly fired off orders. "Tolan, put Jenna down. I might need you. Amana, want to come down with me too? Everyone else, stay here." She turned to glare at Krenner's twin teenage boys across the room. "And I'm serious, you two. Stay here until you're given the all clear. No games. Got it?" She used a pointed finger to emphasize her seriousness. "Yes, Hilla," their voices chorused together, though still with that recognizable undertone of mischief. She knew they'd do as they were told, but she gave them a stern look before turning away. She, Amana, and Tolan walked down to the base of the stairs, through the L-shaped hallway, past their barred prisoner cell, and into the dim ground floor area. She stopped a few metres in front of their metal entrance doors and waited apprehensively. "What's going on?" Krenner's younger brother, Nama, came out of the hall behind them, his deep voice echoing off the high roof. He must have been in one of the storage rooms. A double rap on the small wooden door panel interrupted her explanation. Nobody moved for several seconds. Hilla wasn't sure if she wanted to answer it. There was a sigh, and, ever the blunt let's get stuff done person, Amana walked to the entrance and unlocked one of the metal doors. She opened it wide and lifted her weapon to aim at the new arrival. Hilla stepped forward to see the woman who stood there. A baby was strapped across her front in a faded blue sling. The woman was tall, with long curly black hair that fell around her face and down her back, and she wore dark clothing. Her deep blue eyes spoke of weariness and apprehension, but also relief, as if she recognised them. She cleared her throat. I am unarmed. I am Asher Khan. I have a message for Hilla Norman from a man called Hawk. Scene 6. Across town in the agency tower building. Hilla waited at the ground floor entrance to engineering. Around her, the Spartan, white-walled hallway was bare of people, and nothing seemed amiss. A person turned the corner and their eyes locked. Haran brushed a stray thread of black hair behind one ear and grinned at Anna, who smiled in return. Haran lifted her black neoprene laptop bag. You got them? Yes. Anna opened her fist, revealing the large ring of her mother's engineering department keys hanging from her thumb. Haran hooked the laptop bag straps over one shoulder and turned to watch as Anna unlocked the door. She followed her out of the crisp, clean administration levels of whites, blues and yellows into the rough, dark tunnels of rusted piping, dripping water and the occasional grease-covered engineer. She followed Anna down a set of curving metal stairs, sound of their footsteps bouncing back and forth up the elevator shafts. A man in orange coveralls walked past them, a massive wrench resting over his shoulders. He tipped a yellow hard hat at Anna as they passed each other. Hey, John, Anna responded, sounding very calm. Haran was jealous that her friend could act so cool and collected on the day they were going to escape the agency. Haran followed into a wide tunnel that had once been a sewer. Round walls were painted a rusted cream colour, but where the paint dipped into the outlines of brick underneath, black stone showed through wide, water-damaged cracks. Anna leaned back and took Haran's hand. Be careful. The floor is slippery here. They came to a section of the long, curving tunnel where light bulbs had blown. They walked around a bend, and for a number of moments Haran was in absolute darkness, with only the touch of Anna's hand in hers to know that anything else existed in the pitch black. They turned another corner, and the glow of artificial lights illuminated her again. Coming to a set of concrete stairs, Anna let go of her hand and jogged down and around to the level below. It was level 4 of the basement, and neither of them had clearance for this floor. Here, any trouble could snowball into both of them being caught and executed for treason. At the base of the stairs, a long concrete hall led in both directions. Oblong lights sat in the walls at head height, like giant yellow glowworms. Anna turned right, and Haran followed. At the very end of the corridor was a steel door that led to a disused furnace room. The building had long since upgraded its environmental control system to the modern solar units, but the workers had forgotten to take out the old furnaces and the rooms which housed them. The abandoned space would give Haran enough time to hack a particular electronic lock, and then they'd be free of the agency. Wires and piping filled the space above Haran's head as they walked, and a fan throb pulsed through the atmosphere from the older air conditioning system. Voices came towards them. She stiffened and looked behind her. It was too far to run back to the stairs. Anna grabbed her by the arm and pulled her sideways out of sight into an alcove lined with grey side-suppressing concrete. Haran closed her eyes and willed them not to see them. She squeezed Anna's hand, trying to tell her that even if they were caught and killed very soon, she was glad to face it with her. The voices came closer, and the two of them huddled further into the corner, trying to make themselves as thin as possible. Soon they would pass where they were hiding, and the side-suppressant materials in the concrete would no longer shield them from being detected. Anna lifted her lips to Haran's ear and whispered, I have an idea. Go with it. Just go with it. Haran frowned, about to ask, go with what, when their lips met. She felt a strong arousal flow like water from Anna into her. She breathed in sharply through her nose, with what would have been a gasp had her mouth been free. Anna's slightly cold hands lifted the hem of her blouse out of her skirt and traced a tingling line of skin from the skin of her waist towards her brow line. Hands plunged up into her brow and brushed very sensitive skin. Haran shivered. She understood that Anna was using her empath ability to make her feel aroused. She also understood that Anna was doing it to cover their fear. Kissing her back, Haran untucked Anna's blouse from her pants and copied her actions. The kiss swallowed Haran in an ocean of wondrous sensation for many moments, hands brushing sensitive skin and sending shivers of pleasure up her spine. A call of surprise broke her sharply out of it, and she opened her eyes. The two engineers had immediately seen what they were doing. Haran blushed, unsure if she was supposed to have enjoyed that quite as much as she had. Anna turned to look sideways at them. The change in expression in the two engineers suggested they recognised the rank insignia on her uniform lapel, and therefore that she outranked them. "Could you give us some privacy, please?" The younger of the two blushed and turned away. The elder looked confused for a moment, but followed their companion. When the two got to the end of the hall and turned out of sight, Anna looked back at her with a playful smile. "That was close. Come on, let's get to the furnace room." Haran nodded, mischief lifting one corner of her mouth as she bit her bottom lip. When they got to the door, Anna unlocked it with her engineering master keys, and they stepped through. The warm air that met them reminded her of her mother's old attic. It was a dry heat, with the aroma of metal and wood dust filling the air, and an uncovered light bulb lit the sparse oblong room with a barely adequate yellow glow. Haran set herself down on the dusty concrete in the middle of the room. She placed her laptop on its neoprene bag and took it out of sleep mode with a single key touch. The lock she needed to hack was for the second door in the room. It was a fire door, permanently locked under several layers of security. The agency had blocked it off because on the other side of it was an open path directly out of the building, which was a bad thing when you wanted to keep people in. Her laptop beeped and asked for her login code, which she supplied. The screen went blank for a moment, then blue. In the middle of the blue, a short note was typed in grey text. It held there for a few moments, and then flickered away to her main loading screen. She frowned at her computer. That wasn't supposed to happen. "What's wrong?" She looked up at Anna. Her fear and confusion were interrupted by thoughts of kissing her, and how good it felt. She smiled impishly at Anna. Amusement played in the edges of her friend's smile. "If you want, we can explore that later. But for now, can we focus? What's wrong?" Haran swallowed. "Someone's gotten into my computer and left a post-login message saying to check the paint can." Anna lifted one hand on her hip. "Paint can? Is that an error? Should we abort?" "I don't know." Haran looked around the room, wondering what they should do. But then her eyes stopped wandering. Left of the exit, on the floor behind Anna and tucked away, was a paint can, one of the big ones. A shot of fear flickered in her and she pointed. "Paint can?" Anna turned towards it and knelt down. Her hands came out of the tin and brought up a gun with a yellow sticky note on it. The door in front of her opened, and Haran didn't have time to yell out. A security guard stepped in and lifted his weapon. It was obvious to him that she wasn't where she should be, and therefore she must be a traitor trying to escape. She knew exactly what came after this and closed her eyes. A weapon fired, but she felt no impact. Haran opened one eye cautiously. The guard lay face down on the ground, and Anna stood over him, with the gun still aimed at his back. In her shock, Haran just blinked at her. Anna stepped over the guard's body and handed her a sticky note. Written across the yellow paper, in tidy, curling handwriting, was Jaran Cody, A0 C0112 067152. "Will that open the door?" Anna asked quietly. Haran blinked at the sticky in surprise and laughed. "An A0 level security lock-in? Sultan, yes. No hacking required with that." "Good. We need to hurry. The absence of that guard will set off an alarm soon." Haran's fingers flicked expertly across her keyboard. Windows opened and closed on her screen as she shifted through the many systems, masking the unlock command. Could all be a trap, but they didn't have a choice now that they'd killed someone. She put in the login codes and pressed enter. Another window flicked up to tell her who Jaron Cody was, and the information made her heart skip a beat. Fire escape door clicked, stuffing her computer back into its neoprene bag. She got to her feet quickly. We have to get out of here now. That code. Opening the door, her arm swallowed. That code wasn't just some random A0 agent. Anna pushed through into the darkness beyond. Who was it? She said over her shoulder. Iran followed. The head of the A0 Council. Anna stopped mid-step and looked back at her with wide eyes. We'd better get out of here soon. If we get caught, we're going to wish for death before it comes. Gunfire sounded from behind them, and they both flinched. Run! Yelled Anna. The fire escape door was one of those proper ones, with a metal bar across the width of it that opened out onto the street. Together they sprinted for it across the dimly lit parking lot, hit the bar, and suddenly met sunlight and free air. There wasn't time to enjoy it, unfortunately. They had to keep running.